I died on the operating table, bleeding out after donating bone marrow to save the man I loved. The last thing I heard before the darkness swallowed me wasn't my fiancé Ethan's voice thanking me. It wasn't the doctors frantically trying to stop the hemorrhaging. It was my stepsister Maya's cold, triumphant laugh echoing through the recovery room door. She actually did it! The fool gave up everything for him. Of course she did, Ethan's voice replied, dripping with mockery. Olivia's always been pathetically devoted, like a dog begging for scraps. My vision blurred as the anesthesia wore off too soon, my body convulsing in agony. Through the crack in the door, I could see them. Ethan, the man I'd loved for 6 years, wrapped around Maya, my stepsister, kissing her with a passion he'd never shown me. Once she's gone, everything will be ours, Maya purred. Her trust fund, her shares in the company, everything Daddy left her. Ethan smirked. And I'll finally be cured. Her bone marrow was a perfect match. Too bad she'll never know she saved my life just so I could live it with you? The heart monitor beside me started screaming. My blood pressure was crashing. I tried to call for help, but my voice came out as nothing more than a strangled whisper. They heard it. They both looked directly at me through that door gap. And they smiled. Then they walked away. The complication shouldn't have happened. That's what the doctors told my father later, after they'd declared me dead for the first time. A healthy 26-year-old woman doesn't just hemorrhage during a routine bone marrow donation. But I wasn't routine, was I? In my final moments of consciousness, as the nurses finally rushed in, I heard one of them gasp. Who approved using expired anticoagulants? This is medical malpractice. Another nurse, younger, stammered. Dr. Chen said it was authorized by the family. He said the patient's stepsister Maya signed off on using the older medications to cut costs. Cut costs. On my life. To pocket the difference. I wanted to scream, to rage, to tear the world apart. But my body was already giving up, shutting down organ by organ. The pain was excruciating, like being burned from the inside out. Every nerve ending screamed. Every breath was agony. My father burst into the room then, his face ashen. Olivia, baby, hold on. But even through my fading vision, I could see Maya standing behind him, her hand on his shoulder, playing the concerned sister. Her eyes met mine and she smiled. A small, secret smile that promised she'd won. Dad tried so hard to save you, she whispered, loud enough only for me to hear as he shouted at the doctors. But I convinced him to sign that insurance waiver, told him you'd want to save money for your wedding to Ethan. He has no idea I redirected the funds to my own account. The machines flatlined. I felt my soul being ripped from my body, hovering above the chaos. I watched my father collapse, sobbing over my corpse. I watched Maya comfort him with fake tears. I watched Ethan never even bother to show up. 3 days after my death, I watched my own funeral as a ghost, unable to move on. The turnout was massive. I'd been beloved, apparently. The daughter of tech mogul Richard Laurent, philanthropist, volunteer, the girl who donated half her trust fund to children's hospitals. Everyone spoke of my kindness, my generosity, my pure heart. Everyone except the 2 people who'd killed me. Ethan arrived late, wearing black but checking his phone throughout the service. He wasn't even pretending to grieve. Beside him, Maya dabbed at dry eyes with a tissue, playing the devastated sister while her hand remained firmly clasped in Ethan's under the cover of her coat. After the service, I followed them. Ghosts can do that, apparently. I learned all sorts of things in my 3 days of haunting. They went to what used to be my penthouse apartment, the one I'd bought for Ethan and me to share after our wedding. He already had his things moved in. So did Maya. That was exhausting, Maya groaned, kicking off her heels. I thought her father would never stop crying. Ethan poured 2 glasses of my expensive wine. My wine, from my collection. He'll get over it. Besides, you're his only daughter now. He'll leave everything to you. Not quite everything yet. Maya's eyes glittered with malice as she pulled out a folder. Olivia had a separate trust that bypasses Dad's will. $5 million that goes to her spouse upon marriage. We weren't married yet? No, but I forged her signature on a marriage certificate dated 2 weeks ago. As far as the bank knows, you two eloped before the surgery. She handed him the paper with a vicious grin. Congratulations on your wedding, darling, and your inheritance. Ethan grabbed her and kissed her hard. You're brilliant. Evil, but brilliant. I learned from the best. Maya's voice turned cold. My saintly stepsister always looked down on me. Perfect Olivia with her perfect grades, perfect reputation, perfect daddy who loved her more than his own biological daughter. Well, who's perfect now? She's dead, and I have everything. Not everything yet, Ethan murmured. There's still the company shares. Patience. Maya traced a finger down his chest. We'll contest the will. Claim she was mentally unstable. Coerced into an unfair distribution. With her dead, there's no one to fight us. Dad's too grief-stricken to think straight. In 6 months, Laurent Technologies will be mine, and I'll make you CFO like we planned. And your father? Maya's smile was pure poison. Dad's heart isn't what it used to be. All this stress might be too much for him. Tragic if he had an accident. Then I'd inherit everything immediately. They were planning to murder my father too. I screamed, but no one could hear me. I tried to touch things, to warn him, to do something, anything. But I was powerless. Just a ghost, watching the people I loved being destroyed by the 2 people I'd trusted most. I watched helplessly as Maya's plan unfolded over the next 2 months. She convinced my father that grief counselling wasn't enough, that he needed stronger medication. She gradually isolated him from his friends, his colleagues, anyone who might question her. She took over his finances, citing his emotional instability. She started selling off parts of Laurent Technologies to shell companies I later discovered she'd created. Ethan, meanwhile, made a miraculous recovery. My bone marrow had saved his life. He was cured of the leukemia that had plagued him for 2 years, the same leukemia he'd lied about, exaggerating his symptoms to manipulate me into the donation. She was so easy to fool, he laughed to Maya one night. I just had to look pale and weak, and she'd do anything. The doctors said I could have waited for a public donor, but why wait when I had a personal donor wrapped around my finger? They celebrated his clean bill of health in my bed, in my apartment, with my money. And then came the final blow. My father's accident wasn't really an accident. I watched Maya tamper with his blood pressure medication, replacing his pills with placebos. I watched her forge documents transferring power of attorney to herself. I watched her hire a nurse who looked the other way when my father's health declined rapidly. He died 3 months after me, calling out for me with his last breath. At his funeral, Maya cried convincingly. The media called her a tragic figure, the poor girl who'd lost her entire family. The board of Laurent Technologies, swayed by sympathy and Maya's forged documents, voted to make her CEO. She was 28 years old and now controlled a billion-dollar empire. An empire my grandfather had built, my father had grown, and I had been set to inherit. All stolen by the sister I'd tried so hard to love, and the fiancé I'd literally died for. I don't know how long I stayed trapped, watching Maya destroy everything my family had built. Time felt meaningless when you're dead. But then, one day, the world went white. A voice, neither male nor female, spoke to me. Olivia Laurent, you died unjustly. You suffered an undeserved betrayal. Do you wish to return? Yes, I gasped. Please, I need to save my father. I need to stop them. Then, open your eyes. I gasped awake, my body jerking upright in bed. My bed, my childhood bedroom in my father's mansion. Sunlight streamed through the curtains. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I grabbed it with shaking hands. The date read March 15th, 2025. 6 months before my death. 6 months before I'd agreed to donate bone marrow. 6 months before everything went to hell. I was alive. I was 26 again, healthy, whole. My father was alive downstairs. I could hear him laughing on a phone call. And most importantly, I knew everything. I knew about Ethan's lies, about Maya's schemes, about the forged documents, the tampered medication, the stolen inheritance. I knew how they'd manipulated me, used me, murdered me and my father. But they didn't know I knew. Tears streamed down my face, not from sadness, but from pure burning rage. "You want my bone marrow," I whispered to the empty room, thinking of Ethan and his cancer. "You want my trust fund, my father's company, my life." I stood up, walked to the mirror and stared at myself. The old Olivia had been soft, trusting, naive. That Olivia was dead. The woman staring back at me now had steel in her eyes. "Come and take it," I snarled at my reflection, thinking of Maya and Ethan. "Because this time, I'm not your victim. This time, I'm going to watch you both burn for what you did." The game had changed, and I was going to win. I spent my first hour back in the land of the living, locked in my bathroom, hyperventilating into a towel so no one would hear me. This was real. This was actually real. I pinched myself until bruises formed, splashed cold water on my face until my skin turned red, checked the date on my phone, my laptop, the newspaper delivery outside my door. All confirmed the same impossible truth. March 15th, 2025, the day Ethan was supposed to ask me to get tested as a bone marrow match. I stared at myself in the mirror, gripping the marble sink until my knuckles turned white. "Get it together, Olivia," I whispered. "You have one chance to fix this. One chance to save Dad. One chance to destroy them before they destroy you." My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Good morning, beautiful. Can we meet for lunch? I need to talk to you about something important." I knew exactly what he wanted to talk about. His cancer diagnosis, his desperate need for a bone marrow match, his manipulation tactics that would make me feel guilty if I even hesitated. In my first life, I dropped everything and rushed to the hospital within an hour of that text. This time, I smiled coldly and typed back, "Busy today. Maybe next week?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. He was panicking already. "It's urgent, babe. Please, it's about my health." "How urgent? Are you dying?" The dots took longer this time. He was recalculating his approach. "The doctors found something. I'm scared, Liv. I need you." In my past life, those words would have shattered me. I would have cancelled everything, driven through traffic, held his hand while he cried fake tears. Now, I felt nothing but disgust. "I'll call you tonight," I replied, then muted his notifications. First move made. Let him sweat. I got dressed methodically, choosing a sharp black pantsuit instead of my usual soft feminine style. I pulled my hair back into a severe bun, applied bold red lipstick. The woman in the mirror looked powerful, untouchable. Good. That's exactly who I needed to be. I walked downstairs to find my father in his study, exactly where he always was on Monday mornings. When I saw him alive, healthy, laughing at something on his computer, I nearly broke down. "Olivia?" He looked up with a warm smile. "You're up early. I was just about to have Maria bring you breakfast in bed." I crossed the room and hugged him tightly, breathing in his familiar cologne. "I love you, Dad." He chuckled, hugging me back. "I love you too, sweetheart." "What's the occasion?" "No occasion." I pulled back, memorizing every detail of his face, the laugh lines around his eyes, the silver at his temples, the strong, steady heartbeat I could feel when I hugged him. "I just wanted you to know." His expression softened. You're a good daughter, Olivia. The best daughter a man could ask for. Guilt twisted in my chest. In my first life, I'd been so focused on Ethan that I'd neglected my father. I'd missed dinners with him to attend Ethan's charity events. I'd cancelled our weekly golf games to help Ethan with his treatments. I'd chosen my fiancé over my father again and again. And my father had loved me anyway, had grieved for me, had died heartbroken and alone because of my choices. Never again. Dad, I said carefully, I need to talk to you about Maya. His smile faltered slightly. What about her? I know you love her. I know she's your daughter too. But I need you to promise me something. I held his gaze. Don't let her have access to your medical information. Don't let her handle any of your finances or legal documents. And please, please don't change your will without consulting your lawyers first. He frowned. Olivia, where is this coming from? Did you and Maya have a fight? No fight. Just call it a gut feeling. I squeezed his hand. Promise me, Dad, as a favour to your favourite daughter. He laughed. You're my only biological daughter. Exactly. So promise me. He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, I promise. But you're worrying me, sweetheart. Is everything okay? Everything will be, I said firmly. I'm going to make sure of it. That evening, I couldn't avoid Ethan any longer. He showed up at my father's house unannounced, looking pale and tragic in a way I now recognised as carefully calculated. Liv, you didn't call me back, he said when I opened the door. His eyes were red-rimmed. Probably from eye drops, I realised with disgust. I've been worried sick. About what? I kept my voice neutral, watching him like a scientist observing a specimen. He glanced past me. Can we talk privately? Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door in his face. But I needed to play this smart. I needed him to think everything was normal while I gathered evidence of his crimes. Fine, let's walk in the garden. Outside, under the glow of the garden lights, Ethan took my hand. His touch made my skin crawl, but I forced myself not to flinch. The doctors found something, he began, his voice trembling. Liv, I have leukemia. I'd heard this speech before, word for word. He'd practiced it, perfected it. In my first life, I'd burst into tears at this point. Now, I tilted my head. What type? He blinked. What? What type of leukemia? Acute myeloid? Chronic lymphocytic? Acute lymphoblastic? There are several types, Ethan. They have very different treatments and prognoses. He recovered quickly. Acute myeloid, stage 3, liar. In my first life, his medical record said acute lymphoblastic, stage 2. He couldn't even keep his lies straight. That's serious, I said flatly. What do your doctors recommend? Chemotherapy, radiation, and... He paused dramatically, squeezing my hand. They said I need a bone marrow transplant. Soon. Here it comes. They tested my family. No matches. They're searching the donor registry, but it could take months I don't have. His eyes filled with tears. Real or fake, I couldn't tell anymore. I'm scared, Liv. I don't want to die. In my previous life, I'd immediately offered to get tested. I'd practically begged him to let me be his donor. This time, I pulled my hand away gently. That's terrifying, Ethan. I'm so sorry you're going through this. He waited. When I didn't say anything else, confusion flickered across his face. Will you get tested? To see if you're a match? I pretended to consider it. Bone marrow donation, it's a serious procedure. There are risks. I know, but... And we're not married yet. We've only been engaged for 8 months? I looked at him directly. That's not very long to ask someone to undergo major surgery for you. His expression shuttered. For just a moment, I saw something cold and calculating in his eyes. Then, it was gone, replaced by wounded disbelief. Olivia, I thought you loved me. I do love you. The lie tasted like ash. But love doesn't mean being reckless with my health. I need time to think about it, to research the risks, to talk to my own doctors. I might not have time. His voice rose. The cancer is aggressive. Every day I wait. Then get on the donor registry. Cast a wider net. There are millions of potential matches out there. I kept my tone sympathetic but firm. I'm not saying no, Ethan. I'm saying let me think about it. He stared at me like I was a stranger. Good. Let him wonder what changed. Fine, he said tightly. Think about it. But please, Liv, don't take too long. You might be my only hope. As he left, I saw him pull out his phone and dial immediately. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I knew exactly who he was calling. Maya. The next morning, Maya invited me to brunch. We did this once a month, a tradition I'd started to try to bond with my stepsister. In my previous life, I'd cherished these moments, believing we were becoming close. Now I knew better. Olivia! Maya embraced me at the restaurant, her Chanel perfume overwhelming. You look different. Did you change your hair? Just trying something new. I returned her hug with exactly the right amount of warmth. Not too much, not too little. We ordered mimosas and overpriced salads. Maya chatted about her job at Laurent Technologies, the junior marketing position my father had given her. She complained about her workload, her colleagues, her cramped apartment. You're so lucky, Liv, she sighed, living in that mansion with Dad, not having to worry about rent or bills. You could move back home, I offered, just as I had in my first life. No, I need my independence. She waved a hand dismissively. Besides, you know how Dad is. He treats me like a guest, not a daughter, not like you. The resentment in her voice was barely concealed. I'd missed it before, too busy trying to be understanding. Maya, Dad loves you. Sure. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. So, how's Ethan? I haven't seen him in forever. Liar. She'd probably seen him last night after he called her in a panic. He's going through something, I said carefully. Health issues. Maya's eyes lit up with fake concern. Oh no, what kind of health issues? He was diagnosed with leukemia. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oscar-worthy performance. That's terrible. Is he okay? What can we do? He needs a bone marrow transplant. Did you get tested? The question came too quickly, too eagerly. I studied her face. Not yet. I'm thinking about it. Something flickered in her expression. Annoyance, alarm. Thinking about it? She leaned forward. Liv, if you're a match, you have to help him. He's your fiancé. You love him, don't you? Of course I love him. I sipped my mimosa. But bone marrow donation isn't risk-free. There can be complications, nerve damage, infection, reactions to anesthesia. But those are rare, Maya pressed. And Ethan is dying. Is he? I let the question hang in the air. Stage 2, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, has an 80% 5-year survival rate with standard treatment. He has time to find a donor. Maya blinked. How do you know it's stage 2? I smiled. I did my research. Something told me to look into his medical history. Her face went carefully blank. That's thorough of you. I learned from the best. I held her gaze. You always taught me to do my homework before making major decisions, remember? The silence between us crackled with tension. Maya recovered first, laughing too loudly. Of course. I just meant, don't overthink it. Ethan loves you. You love him. Sometimes we have to take risks for the people we care about. Funny, I said softly. That's exactly what Ethan said. Her smile froze. Well, he's right. Or maybe you both rehearsed the same lines. What are you talking about? I leaned back, letting her squirm. Nothing, just an observation. You two think very similarly lately. We barely talk, she said quickly. Too quickly. I changed the subject smoothly. How's work? Dad mentioned he might be promoting you. She latched onto the new topic with obvious relief, spinning elaborate stories about her accomplishments. I nodded along, mentally cataloguing every lie, every manipulation, every subtle dig at me disguised as concern. When we parted ways, Maya hugged me tightly. Promise me you'll help Ethan, she whispered. Family helps family, right? Family. The word nearly made me laugh. Right, I said. Family. As I walked away, I felt her eyes on my back. Calculating, suspicious. Good. Let her worry. That night, I broke into Ethan's apartment. Well, broke in was a strong term. I still had the key from my previous life, and muscle memory guided me through disabling his alarm system. His laptop was in the study, password protected. But I knew the password. His mother's maiden name plus his birth year. Pathetically simple. What I found made my blood run cold. Emails between Ethan and Maya dating back 2 years. Long before his cancer diagnosis. Long before our engagement. E. She's so gullible. Asked if I loved her today. Obviously said yes. M. Keep her hooked. We need her trust fund accessible before we make our move. E. When are you going to tell your father about us? M. Never, idiot. He'd disown me. Olivia's the perfect cover. Once she's out of the picture, I inherit everything and you get your cure. E. Speaking of which, doctor confirmed I'm a good candidate for the accelerated treatment. Just need the bone marrow donation to seal the deal. M. She'll give it. She'd give you her heart if you asked. Stupid little martyr. My hand shook as I scrolled through months of messages. Plans to forge documents. Plans to bribe doctors. Plans to ensure my bone marrow donation went wrong. And then I found the file labelled Inheritance Timeline. It laid out everything. My death, scheduled for 3 months after the donation to avoid suspicion. My father's accident, planned for 6 months later. The shell companies Maya had already set up to funnel money. The offshore accounts. The falsified medical records that would show my death as an unfortunate surgical complication. They'd been planning to murder me for 2 years. I copied everything to a flash drive, my vision blurring with rage tears. They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd been plotting my death from the moment Ethan slipped that engagement ring on my finger. I was never anything but a walking organ donation and a bank account to them. As I was about to leave, I heard keys in the lock. Panic seized me. I shoved the laptop back into place, grabbed my flash drive, and dove behind the couch just as the door opened. Ethan walked in, with Maya. This is getting complicated, Ethan growled. She's asking questions, researching my diagnosis. She's never done that before. So, answer her questions, Maya snapped. Cry harder, play up the dying boyfriend routine. It worked before. Before, she was soft. Something's different now. It's like she doesn't trust me anymore. Then, make her trust you. Maya's heels clicked across the hardwood floor. We're too close to give up. I already hired the doctor who will sabotage her surgery. Already set up the accounts to receive her money. We just need her on that operating table. And if she refuses? The silence stretched. When Maya spoke again, her voice was ice. Then we find another way to kill her. But this way is cleaner, more profitable, and infinitely more satisfying. They laughed together, the sound echoing in the apartment. My apartment, that I'd paid for. I waited until they disappeared into the bedroom. My bedroom, before I slipped out silently. The next day, everything accelerated. Ethan called me crying. "Liv, the doctors say it's progressing faster than they thought. Please, I'm begging you, get tested. If you're a match, you could save my life." I let him beg, let him cry, let him manipulate. Then I said, "Okay, I'll get tested." His relief was palpable. Thank you so much. I knew you loved me." "I do love you, Ethan." Another lie. "I'll call the hospital tomorrow." I hung up and immediately dialed my father. "Dad, I need you to do something for me. Don't ask questions, just trust me." "What is it, sweetheart?" "Hire a private investigator. I need complete background checks on Ethan Marrow and Maya Laurent. Financial records, phone records, everything. And do it quietly. Tell no one." "Olivia, what's going on?" "Just trust me, Dad. Please, and remember that promise you made me about not letting Maya access your information? Make sure you keep it, no matter what she says, no matter how much she cries." "You're scaring me." "Good. Be scared. But more importantly, be careful." I took a deep breath. "Someone's trying to destroy our family, Dad, and I'm going to stop them." That evening, I received a text from an unknown number. "I know you've been snooping. Back off or you'll regret it." My blood turned to ice. They knew. Before I could process that, my father called. His voice was panicked. "Olivia, get home. Now. Maya's been in an accident. She's at St. Mary's Hospital." "An accident? How convenient." "I'm on my way." As I drove to the hospital, my mind raced. This was a setup. It had to be. They knew I was onto them, so they were pivoting, creating sympathy, making Maya the victim. But when I arrived at the emergency room, I found something I didn't expect. Maya wasn't hurt. She was sitting in the waiting room, perfectly fine, dabbing at fake tears. It was my father on the gurney. "Olivia," Maya rushed to me. "It's terrible. Dad had a heart attack. He was driving me home when it happened. We crashed, but I'm fine, thank God." "But, Dad..." A doctor approached, her face grim. "Are you Olivia Laurent?" "Yes. How is he?" "Your father is stable, but he's had a significant cardiac event. We need to operate immediately." She glanced at Maya. "Your sister has already signed the consent forms as next of kin." "She's not next of kin. I am." I pushed past her toward my father's room. He was unconscious, hooked up to machines. An IV dripped clear fluid into his arm. I looked at the IV bag, at the label, and my world tilted. The medication listed wasn't for heart attacks. It was a paralytic. The same one that had been used to kill him in my previous life. They weren't waiting anymore. They were trying to murder him now. I spun around to find Maya blocking the doorway, her fake tears gone. In their place was a smile that promised death. "You should have donated your bone marrow when you had the chance, Olivia," she whispered. "Now we're doing this the messy way." Behind her, Ethan appeared, his phone in hand. Recording. "She's hysterical," he said loudly, "trying to interfere with her father's treatment. Someone call security." They'd planned this. Every detail. The fake accident, the medication, the recording that would make me look unstable if I tried to expose them. I had seconds to decide. Save my father and blow my cover, or let him die while I gathered evidence. The machine started screaming. My father's heart was stopping, and Maya smiled wider. I didn't hesitate. "Stop!" I screamed, lunging for the IV line. "That medication is wrong. Someone check the IV bag now." Security rushed in, but so did the head nurse. She grabbed the IV bag, her eyes widening in horror. "This isn't cardiac medication. This is vecuronium. A paralytic. Who authorized this?" Maya's face went white. Ethan stepped back, his phone still recording. The doctor snatched the bag. "Get it out now. Start the reversal agent." Chaos erupted. Nurses swarmed my father. The doctor barked orders. Within seconds, they'd removed the poisoned IV and started proper treatment. My father's vitals stabilized. I turned to Maya with cold fury. You signed the consent forms. You approved his medications. Explain how a paralytic ended up in his IV. I don't know. The doctor must have made a mistake. Her voice rose hysterically. Why are you attacking me? I'm the victim here. We were in an accident. Were you? I pulled out my phone, showing the dashcam footage I'd already accessed from the hospital parking system, because this shows you driving Dad's car into a post deliberately. No swerving, no brake lights, just a straight collision after you drugged his coffee. The security guard stopped, staring at the footage. That's fake, Maya shrieked. She doctored it. She's trying to frame me because she's jealous. Jealous? I laughed bitterly. Of what? Your lies? Your schemes? Your affair with my fiancé? Ethan's phone clattered to the floor. I have emails, I continued, my voice steady. 2 years of messages between you two. Planning my death, planning Dad's death, shell companies, forged documents, everything. I pulled out the flash drive and handed it to the head of security. Check for yourselves. Maya's mask cracked. You broke into Ethan's apartment. That's illegal. Whatever you found is inadmissible. Actually, a new voice cut through the chaos. It's completely admissible when provided to law enforcement during an active attempted murder investigation. Detective Morrison walked in, flanked by 2 officers. My father's lawyer had called him the moment I'd sent the evidence earlier that day. Maya Laurent and Ethan Monroe, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and fraud. The next week was a whirlwind. My father recovered quickly once we discovered Maya had been slowly poisoning his coffee for months, with small doses of medication to weaken his heart. The toxicology reports confirmed everything. The private investigator I'd hired uncovered even more. Shell companies in the Cayman Islands, forged power of attorney documents ready to be filed, a bribed doctor at the hospital who was supposed to accidentally kill me during the bone marrow donation. That doctor broke first, giving a full confession in exchange for a plea deal. Miss Laurent paid me $50,000, he testified. She provided the expired anticoagulants. She told me to make it look like a surgical complication. She said her sister deserved to die for stealing her father's love. The media erupted. Tech heiress plots sister's murder dominated every headline. Ethan's lies unravelled spectacularly. His medical records showed his cancer was stage 2, not stage 3. Highly treatable. He'd been on the donor registry for months and had multiple matches available. He'd rejected them all because he wanted my bone marrow specifically. Why? Because the surgery would give Maya and him access to my medical proxy, my insurance, my accounts. I'd been nothing but a convenient target. Laurent Technologies' board held an emergency meeting. They voted unanimously to terminate Maya's employment and ban her from any future association with the company. Her cramped apartment? Turned out it was a luxury penthouse she'd rented with embezzled company funds. Her struggling artist boyfriend from college? Just another lie to make me pity her. Every piece of the life she'd built was a fabrication designed to manipulate me. The trial was set for 3 months later, but I wasn't waiting for the legal system to deliver my revenge. I wanted them to face me first. I arranged a family dinner at our mansion. My father, Maya and Ethan's families, the board of directors, and key shareholders. I told everyone it was a reconciliation attempt. They all came, curious about the scandal. Maya and Ethan arrived in handcuffs, out on bail, their lawyers flanking them. Maya had lost weight, her designer clothes hanging off her frame. Ethan looked grey and sick. His cancer treatments had been delayed due to his arrest. Good. Thank you all for coming, I began, standing at the head of the table. My father sat beside me, healthy and strong. I wanted everyone to hear the truth from me before the trial. Olivia, please, Maya's mother begged. Maya made mistakes, but she's still family. She tried to murder me. My voice cut through the room like ice. She tried to murder my father. She stole from his company. She manipulated me for years, pretending to be my sister while plotting my death. I turned to Maya. Do you want to know what I remember most from my first life? Watching you smile as I bled out on an operating table. Hearing you laugh about how stupid I was to love you. Watching you comfort Dad at my funeral while planning his murder. Maya's face went ashen. Your first life? You're insane! Am I? I pulled out a folder. These are copies of the emails you and Ethan sent. Let me read some highlights. I read them aloud. Every cruel word, every calculated manipulation, every detail of their murder plot. Ethan's mother burst into tears. Maya's father stared at his daughter like she was a stranger. You're my daughter, he whispered to Maya. How could you hate Olivia this much? Maya's facade shattered. Because she had everything, she screamed. Dad loved her more, gave her more. She was perfect, Olivia, and I was just the spare. I deserved that inheritance. I deserved that company. Not her. You deserved nothing, I said coldly. You earned nothing. You're a parasite who fed on my kindness and mistook it for weakness. I turned to Ethan. And you told me you loved me. You said I was your future, but I was just a walking organ donation to you, wasn't I? He couldn't meet my eyes. Answer me! I slammed my hand on the table. Was I ever anything more than a convenient donor? No, he whispered finally. You weren't. The room fell silent. Thank you, I said softly, for finally telling me one truth. The trial was swift and brutal. With the confession I'd recorded at dinner, the emails, the medical evidence, and the testimonies from multiple witnesses, the prosecution built an airtight case. Maya was convicted of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and embezzlement. The judge sentenced her to 25 years in prison. You betrayed your family's trust, the judge said. You plotted the murder of your own father and sister out of greed and jealousy. You showed no remorse, no humanity. You deserve every day of this sentence. Maya screamed and had to be dragged from the courtroom. Ethan received 15 years for conspiracy and fraud. His cancer treatment would continue in prison, but without the bone marrow transplant, his prognosis was uncertain. His lawyer tried one last manipulation. Your Honour, Mr. Monroe is seriously ill. Without proper treatment. Then he should have thought of that before plotting to murder his fiancée for her bone marrow, the judge snapped. The court has provided adequate medical care. He'll receive the same treatment any other prisoner receives. As they led him away, Ethan looked at me one last time. I really am dying, Liv. Doesn't that matter to you? I stood, walked to the barrier separating us, and looked him dead in the eye. You died to me the moment you chose to betray me. Whatever happens to you now is just karma collecting its debt. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Outside, reporters swarmed. I gave one statement. My stepsister and ex-fiancé believed they could manipulate me, use me, and kill me for my money. They were wrong. Justice has been served, and I'm finally free. The media loved it. Ice Queen's revenge trended worldwide. But I didn't care about the headlines. I cared that my father was alive, healthy, and finally saw Maya for who she truly was. I cared that I'd exposed 2 murderers before they could hurt anyone else. And I cared that I'd taken back my life. 6 months later, I stood in my father's study, now serving as co-CEO of Laurent Technologies. We'd restructured the company, eliminated the corruption Maya had introduced, and launched new initiatives focused on healthcare transparency, specifically protecting patients from medical fraud. My father walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee. Thought you could use this. Thanks, Dad. I took the cup, smiling. How was the board meeting? Productive. They're thrilled with our 3rd quarter numbers. He sat beside me. You know, I never imagined you'd take to business like this. I always thought you'd go into medicine or charity work. I did too. I gazed out the window. But dying changes your priorities. He squeezed my shoulder. I still don't fully understand what you meant that day, about your first life. But I know you saved me, Olivia. You saved us both. You would have done the same for me. In a heartbeat. He paused. Have you heard from them? I knew he meant Maya and Ethan. Maya writes letters. I burn them unread. Ethan's lawyer tried to reach out about compassionate release due to his health. I told them I'd testify against it. Good. My father's voice was steel. They don't deserve your compassion. No, I agreed. They don't. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the sky gold. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Ethan Marrow denied early release despite deteriorating health. I felt nothing. No guilt, no pity, just satisfaction. You know what the funny thing is? I said softly. In my first life, I gave him everything. My bone marrow, my life, my future, and he threw it all away. And now? Now he gets to live with the consequences of his choices. He wanted my bone marrow so badly, he was willing to kill me for it. Now he'll die without it, knowing he destroyed his own chance at survival. My father studied my face. That doesn't make you happy, does it? No, I admitted. But it makes me feel just. He made his choice, I made mine. The difference is I get to live with mine. I stood walking to the window. The city sprawled below us, full of light and life and possibility. I used to think love meant sacrifice, I continued. That being a good person meant letting others take from you. Maya and Ethan taught me I was wrong. Being good doesn't mean being weak. And love that requires you to destroy yourself isn't love at all. So, what will you do now? My father asked. You have your justice. You have your company. What's next for Olivia Laurent? I smiled, genuine and free for the first time in years, in lifetimes. Whatever I want, Dad. I'm going to live. Really live. No more sacrificing myself for people who don't deserve it. No more letting anyone make me feel guilty for protecting myself. I turned to face him fully. I'm going to build something better than they ever could have destroyed. I'm going to help other people recognize manipulation before it's too late. And I'm going to do it all without an ounce of regret. My father raised his coffee cup in a toast. To second chances. I clinked my cup against his. To second chances, and to making damn sure we used them right. As the sun set on that day, I thought about the girl I used to be. Soft, trusting, naive. Dead on an operating table because she loved too much and questioned too little. That girl was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who died for her mistakes and been given the rarest gift, a chance to correct them. Maya was in prison, her life destroyed by her own greed. Ethan was dying slowly, denied the very thing he'd tried to kill me for, and I was alive, free, and finally in control of my own destiny. They thought they could use me, break me, kill me. But I came back, and I made them pay for every single sin.